Welcome! In this deep dive, we're going to systematically analyze the commentary on a single yet incredibly powerful verse from the Qur'an. We'll explore some profound concepts about paradise, what happens to the soul after death, and the very nature of our spiritual reality.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. We'll start with the verse itself and the core ideas it sets up. Then we'll journey through the intermediate realm known as barzakh, look at the narratives that describe it, and discuss the unique spiritual station of the Ahl Bayt. After that, we'll dig into the connection between the soul and the body, and we'll wrap it all up by decoding the symbolic meaning of the forbidden tree.
Okay, let's begin with the verse itself. Right away, it introduces a really fundamental distinction that shapes everything else we're going to talk about. This idea that there isn't just one kind of heaven, but actually two.
So this is it, the verse at the very heart of our discussion. It sets up a clear promise, doesn't it? Faith, combined with righteous actions, leads to the reward of paradise. And that phrase, "we charge no soul except within its capacity," is so important. It speaks to divine justice and mercy. But this is where the commentary immediately asks a crucial question. What exactly is this paradise we're talking about? And right off the bat, the commentary makes this incredibly important distinction. We often think of paradise as a single destination, but here it's presented in two totally different forms. First, you've got the heaven of deeds, Jannah al-Af'al. That's the beautiful place we imagine, the reward we earn. But then there's the heaven of essence, Jannah al-That, which is a much deeper idea. It's an inner paradise that isn't earned, but is instead uncovered within your own self. So, this first type of heaven is conditional. It's the direct result of our prayers, our kindness, our patience, all our acts of worship. You can almost think of it like a beautiful garden that you built, piece by piece through every good thing you do. This is the paradise that you earn. In complete contrast, the heaven of essence isn't about getting something, it's about becoming something. This is the paradise of your own pure self, that divine nature or fitra that was there from the very beginning. It's not a destination you travel to, but the state of being you reach when all the veils are finally lifted and your true purified essence shines through. This is also called Jannat el-Liqa, the paradise of encountering God.
So this brings us to the soul's journey after death. The commentary shifts from talking about the ultimate hereafter to what happens immediately after our life in this world ends. And to understand this journey, we have to explore the intermediate realm, known as barzakh.
The word barzakh itself literally means a barrier or a partition. The source defines it as that critical stage where the soul has left the physical body but hasn't yet entered the finality of the day of judgment. It's a world of pure consciousness and perception, a place that is just as real as this one, just a different kind of reality.
And this, of course, is the million-dollar question. I mean, our entire experience of the world comes through our physical senses. Without eyes to see or ears to hear, how is perception even possible? The text dives right into this huge philosophical problem. The answer the commentary gives is fascinating. It lies in this idea of a different kind of body, one that's perfectly designed for a non-physical world. This is the jism al-barzakhi, which you could translate as the ethereal body or the intermediate body. It's not our physical body, but it's not the pure abstract soul either. It's something in between.
So this ethereal body is described as being much finer, more subtle than our physical one. It isn't tied down by things like gravity, time, or space. Now, to help us get our minds around this, the commentary uses a really powerful analogy, the body you have in a vivid dream. Think about it. In a dream, you can see, hear, move, and feel. You have a full sense of self, even though your physical body is just lying in bed. The ethereal body is like that dream body, but with one massive difference. The experience in barzakh is said to be way more lucid, real, and intense than any dream you could possibly have.
Now, to make this whole concept of barzakh feel a little less abstract and more grounded, the commentary brings in specific narrations, or hadiths. These come from figures in the Shia tradition known as the infallible leaders, who are believed to have divinely given knowledge of these unseen worlds. For instance, the text gives a really concrete example. It references a narration from Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib where he describes a place called Wadi al-Salam, or the Valley of Peace, in Najaf. He explains that the souls of believers from all over the globe gather there. They form communities, they talk to each other, and they get to experience a taste of the joys of paradise to come. This narration from Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq gets into something that's a deeply human concern for all of us, the connection between the living and the dead.
It says that the deceased, in this ethereal form, are allowed to visit their families. And if they see their loved ones doing good things and living well, they're filled with happiness. But if they see them going down the wrong path, they're filled with sadness. This shows that death doesn't just sever the connection, and our actions here still have an effect on those in barzakh.
You'll notice the source keeps coming back to this powerful dream analogy, and for good reason. It's really the closest thing we have in this life to our perception being separate from our physical body. In a dream, our reality is built by the soul itself. The commentary argues that life in barzakh is just a much more profound, continuous, and lucid version of that state, where the reality you experience is a direct reflection of your soul's inner condition. Okay, the discussion now takes a pretty specific theological turn. We've talked about the two heavens that are available to believers, but the commentary introduces a third, even higher station, one that is reserved for the Prophet Muhammad and his purified household, the Al-Bayt. So the whole framework of an earned paradise or an uncovered paradise, that applies to the general believer. But the commentary says, hang on, the Ahl el-Bayt are in a category all their own. Their spiritual rank isn't something they acquired or earned in the same way. It's of a completely different order. To back this up, the author points to this verse. The key Arabic word here is istifa, which means to choose, to select, or to purify. The verse establishes this divine principle of selection. So the argument is that just as God chose these past prophets and their families for a special purpose, he also chose the Ahl-Bayt for unique spiritual station. So let's just quickly break down the reasoning here. Their station isn't a reward for good deeds because it's inherent to their very essence. It's dati. It's a fundamental reality of who they are, granted directly by God's choice. And because of that, it goes beyond the ideas of the heaven of deeds and the heaven of essence. The text basically concludes that their true spiritual rank is ultimately beyond what our minds can fully grasp. All right, next up, we're going to explore this deep, fascinating relationship between our physical body, our soul, and how we actually perceive reality. The commentary argues that our state in the next life is a direct, unveiled reflection of our spiritual state right here, right now. This verse is really presented as the key to understanding this whole principle of continuity. Now, the blindness it's talking about here isn't physical blindness. The source is very clear on this. It's talking about a spiritual blindness, the inability to see spiritual truths, to recognize the signs of God, and to have real insight, or basira. And this is where things get really interesting, because it flips our usual understanding on its head. We tend to think our senses are like windows to the world, right? But the commentary argues that they're also veils. They're filters that actually limit the soul's true expansive ability to perceive. In its pure state, the soul can perceive realities far beyond what our physical eyes and ears could ever pick up. So the text explains that death doesn't act as some great equalizer for perception. It's more like an unveiling. For the soul that worked on developing spiritual insight in this life, death is a kind of liberation. The veil is removed, and their consciousness and perception expand massively. But for the soul that was spiritually blind here, death just takes away the physical excuse. That inner blindness is still there, and that soul finds itself lost and even more confused in the vast reality of barzakh. All right, in our final section, we're going to circle back to the broader context of that original verse, and we're going to try to decipher the meaning of the tree mentioned in the Qur'anic story. We're moving from a literal reading to a really deep, symbolic one. This brings us to this recurring prohibition in the story of Adam and Eve. They're in this beautiful garden. They're told they can have anything they want, except they're warned, do not approach this tree. So the commentary asks, what does this tree really represent? Not just for Adam, but for all of us. And here, the interpretation just takes a dramatic turn. The commentary brings in a narration from Imam Sadiq that completely reframes the story. He says the forbidden tree wasn't a physical plant at all. It was a state of being, a spiritual problem, the tree of envy. So the real prohibition was against letting envy take root in the heart. This really opens up the tree as a universal metaphor for any spiritual roadblock between a person and God. According to that narration, Adam's specific test was envying the high spiritual station he was shown would one day belong to the Prophet Muhammad and his family. For us today, the tree represents any lower attachment, like envy or greed or arrogance, that distracts us from our real purpose and puts a veil over the heart. And so we end with this final thought. This whole commentary challenges us to see faith as more than just a set of actions we do for a reward.
It's a dual journey. There's the outward journey of doing good deeds, which builds our heaven of actions. And then there's the inward journey of purification, which unveils our heaven of essence. And this leaves us with a pretty profound question to reflect on. What does it truly mean to walk both of these paths at the same time and draw closer to the ultimate reality?